I'm here with Gevangee Desai, VP of InfoSec Compliance and Security at Cielo. Gevangee, good to see you, and thanks for joining me in this chat.
Hey, Guru, always good to see a good partner, and thanks for having me. Much appreciated. Looking forward to this chat, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of retro our work together. We met back in January, and you were like, "Hey, I need." I was looking back through our emails, and you're like, "Hey, want to do this ISO 42001?" And at that point, look, now it's starting to really pick up, right? But the demand for it. But at that point, you guys were one of the early movers. And I'd be very curious, Gevangee, what, from your perspective, what prompted you, your team, to pursue ISO 40001 certification? What did you think were the benefits that you were looking for? I'd be curious what got you started on this journey.
Yeah, great question. I think there's three things that come to mind, and it will be amiss of us not to kind of frame what Cielo does, because I think that's important too. But Cielo's core is pretty much a talent business, right? So we partner with organizations to find you the best talent and make sure you have that talent at the right time. Now, whether we do that through putting people in place, but generally speaking, there's always technology in play. And I think that's the biggest prompt that prompted us. It's kind of when our people, when our processes, when our enabling factors kind of have these technology, these AI technologies come with it, then there's an element of trust. And I think that was the biggest driver for us, pretty much around that trust. And 42001 really laid the base, the groundwork for our clients, just to say, hey, here's a certificate. They did the work. We trust them, and we can then delve deeper into those things. So I think that'll be the first one. The second one that comes to mind is the competitive edge, because obviously, if you put two of these systems together, they might do the same thing. The one has a certificate, the one doesn't. Then you can imagine what's going to win. And then just the governance framework, right? And that's kind of the benefits that we now yielding is now that we have a control framework, it's a lot easier to kind of manage going forward.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, essentially, you're saying you are in the trust business is what you're saying about Cielo. And look, I actually think this is going to be a differentiator in the new AI economy, right? Because everyone's going to have access to AI tools and technologies and whatever. But who is in the trust business and who can win in the trust business is actually going to be a differentiator. So I love that you started with that point. So building off of that, you guys, obviously you have led ISO 27001 at your organization at Cielo. Tell me kind of what were some of the, as you started learning about 42001, what were some of the things that were common? And then where did you realize, hey, this is quite different as well?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, a bit of a surprise to me. I think when anybody looks at the standard, right, that's the first thing you do. You download the standard and you kind of look through it and you go through it. Then in your mind, you go, yeah, we have that. Why? Because 27001 already has the same kind of framework. So you have a risk-based framework. You have all the controls kind of semi-aligned. I think the biggest surprise came to me when it delved into the application level. And gosh, that's where your team really helped us out, where it's like, hey, Gevangee, you realize you're supposed to have this inventory linked to the documentation and. So I think that was the biggest surprise to us, where the differentiator is. I think we use the analogy that ISO 27001 is kind of the security, right? So if you imagine a house, the walls, the locks on the doors, that's ISO 27001. Inside the house, the family, the data that they're using, that's the AI kind of, and the 42001 really was kind of how it governs how the data is used within the walls of and that's why kind of I really, it governs obviously the fairness, the bias, all those things. But I really like how 42001 and 27001 works in harmony with each other to actually achieve some really nice things. And you heard me go on and on about having this dual certification, which I think is just amazing to have because you can kind of say, hey, we got the security covered, but we also have the AI covered. Look at us kind of thing. Yeah, for sure.
And Gevangee, I wanted to ask you that because now you are an expert on these things. You've been an expert on 27001 and data and information security, and now you're an expert on AI management systems. And this is a common misconception, Gevangee, very similar to where you started, where a lot of folks think, oh, these are highly overlapping. And these are, I've even heard in Reddit, if you go to Reddit forums, they'll say, hey, 60, 70% overlapping. And it's not, right? It's like you said, they're much more complementary because once you dive in, Most of the AI management system, 4201, is at the application level. And that's just not something you do in 2701 or other systems. So I appreciate you calling that out, and I like your analogy of the walls versus what's happening inside, because it's much more complementary than overlapping. So.
Correct. Yeah, and I think you hit on a key point. It's that inventory of your systems, right? That's so important. And I think as a journey, when I started out, also you'll remember a little bit of this because we worked with your teams on this. But just getting to that. What do we actually use? What do we actually have in the system? What should be part of scope? What shouldn't be? That's a tricky thing for, I think, all organizations to get their heads around. And that's in the pre stages. So, yeah.